brand new crystal director, Jennifer Gout, brand new crystal managers, Lee Kwan Thi Nguyen, Lyra Hong Nguyen, Ewan Ni Nguyen, Fong Tai Nguyen, Lisa Dawn, and CP Hang Do. I apologize if I said that wrong, but that's freaking amazing. Way to go. Top enrollers, Holly Kirsch, Ann White, Hong Tron, Katie Martin, and Tai Beek Tui Pham. You guys are absolutely amazing. Great, great, great job. Dreamers in Action. Heather Holland, new consultant, team enrollers, Jenny Thompson, Dan Hook, Claire Brightwell, Janine Ballard, Jessica Stout, Emily Sutherland, Charlotte Weems, Kathy Durnick, Kari Andrews, Laura Laurie, Carrie Littner, and Nikki Kaswala, also brand new consultant. You guys are amazing. So fun. So you guys, I do have Ciji's bio, and I'm going to highlight a few things because I really want you guys to know who's on the call. And then I'm going to introduce her in the way that I want you just to know her and love her the way that Jess and I do. But Ciji was a bartender before Isagenix came into her life, and she's going to tell you her story. So I won't say a lot, but she has been on the field advisory board. She's maxed out the compensation plan. She has trained numerous times for the company. She's a 9-star platinum, 3-star crystal executive. Type in the chat if anyone knows what a 9-star platinum is, how many cycles that is. We're getting back to talking about cycles and cycle growth and the value of the cycles. If you know what 9-star platinum is, type in the chat how many freaking cycles that is, and then someone else do it times 54 so we can talk about what is really possible here in our compensation plan. But what I want to tell you about Ciji is, first of all, she's fun. If you have the opportunity to go hang out with her, to be at an event, she's super fun. She's guaranteed to make you laugh. She is so full of integrity and authenticity. All right, we have 300 cycles. Now someone do that by 54. Someone do that in the chat. 300 times 54. Brandy's already excited. She's like, wait, I want to figure this out. I like simple. I like easy. Brandy's got a goal of when she's going to hit 300 cycles. But she's so full of integrity, so full of authenticity, and she's always been real. And so I got to know her at a Jeff Combs event many years ago. I felt like kind of off of the Isagenix big stage. But when Jess and I first started, like Ciji was like one of the talk of the town. She was like the Isa celebrity. I mean, Janie was like, you got to get on Ciji's calls. You got to see what she and Tara are doing. And she was someone that we really just kind of modeled, but over the years has become great friends. We've traveled together. I adore her brother, Todd. I like love the way that they build. And it's just a treat to have her tonight because she's been with the company. How many years, Ciji? 10 or longer? 10?
Yeah, over 10. Was it 2010 I started? So what is that? I don't even know. A long time.
A long time. You know, she's got this powerful story, but to have seen Isagenix, like when we were in like the absolute mind-blowing season of momentum, you know, seeing some transitions in the company where we're kind of, you know, trending with this biohacking, you know, the innovation behind that, and just someone who really has so much integrity and alignment with her own health and her own finances, which is why she's had such success with mentoring other people. So Ciji, I'm so excited to have you on, and I know you've kind of got like a little presentation plan. If you guys heard her do Isagenix a little bit ago, you've seen parts of this, not all of it, but we just thought it was really fitting where we're at going into the new year, talking about the blue ocean, you know, this kind of reinventing yourself with Isagenix, where we've been, how to reestablish yourself, get us to be this sexy, everybody wants to be a part of it. But I'd love for you, even before that, to like tell your story and not just the 30-second version, because many people don't know you, you know, they haven't seen you at an event, and you're just so relatable in so many ways.
Oh my gosh. So Lauren did our team call last week. And I think one of the great privileges of this business is getting to watch people who are really committed go through their journey. And I've known Lauren now, I think for 8 years, and she's always been a powerhouse. She's always been someone to follow, but getting to listen to her on our call last week and to see who she's become in this business was so inspiring. And so Lauren, like, I just had to say that I imagine everyone on here knows what a powerhouse you are, but in case like someone is brand new, I was truly blown away and in just complete awe of the person that you've become over the last decade. And we have Jessica on next week, who is just an absolute legend in this company, someone that is leading the way. There's so much integrity in this entire team. I saw Erica and Ann and so many amazing leaders that you guys have. So I'm sure you realize how fortunate you are. And if I could just remind you, that is, you know, an absolute honor for me to be able to do that. So my story in Isogenics started in 2010. I was waitressing and bartending on the Jersey Shore and wasn't looking for an opportunity, was only looking for a protein shake is what I called it at the time. Happened to work with Tara Romano, who many of you know, although nobody would have known her at the time. She was my bartending coworker. She was kind of going through her own process, trying to figure out what her life was about to look like. I casually asked her for a protein shake during one of our bar shifts. She connected me with her sister, who was a Jersey City guidance counselor at the time, Alexis Romano now. She's a top 10 income earner in Isogenics. But again, it was very early in her journey as well. And I basically did a 30-day system. They told me I was going to love it. I am the easiest sell in the book. Handed over my credit card, gave them my social, no questions asked, put the products in my body. About 2 weeks in, felt amazing, called Alexis back up and said, this is great. I feel good, but let's be honest, what happens after? You cannot tell me people drink shakes and like do these cleanses for the rest of their life. And she said something at the time that just made such logical sense to me. And I like to think I'm a pretty practical, logical person. She said, if you feel amazing, why would you stop? And that was all I really needed to hear, to know that this nutrition would become a non-negotiable part of my life. And I'll probably mention this as I go, but one of the, I think the really amazing things about this nutrition is I've been in Isogenics since 2010. That is, I think we said 12 years. The life seasons I've been in over the last 12 years have changed, as I'm sure many of your life seasons have changed over the last 12 years. And the way I've utilized this nutrition has also changed. And I think that's what's really important, even within this biohacking conversation, is you can utilize the nutrition in a way that really optimizes your physiology. And what works for you 12 years in might be a little bit different for me, but I think that's the beauty of having really incredible foundational nutrition that's backed by science. So I came in only with the intention of using the products. Took me about 2 years to look at the opportunity. The only reason I did was because I was in grad school. I'd started grad school at the time because I had absolutely no direction in my life, didn't know what to do, realized I couldn't work full-time behind the bar and be a full-time grad student. And I wasn't willing to sacrifice the nutrition I was putting in my body. So I called Alexis up. She told me I had to go to an event very similar to the one a lot of you were at this last weekend. And I started to realize, like, oh my goodness, people actually make money doing this. We're not all just here trying to get our products paid for. That was my light bulb moment. And I made the decision that day that I don't care how long it takes me. I don't care what it looks like. I'm going to figure this out, because I had nothing to lose. I was desperate for something to change in my life. I was desperate for a community. I was desperate to feel a part of something. I was desperate to really go all in on something. And Isogenics just came to me at probably the absolute perfect season. And so it has been 12 years. And, you know, I came out of Celebration this year. How many of you were at, if you were at Celebration, can you throw a 1 in the chat? Just to get an idea. Okay, cool. A couple people. And I imagine a lot more coming. Awesome. And I'm sure even more when we get to New Year's kickoff. But I came out of Celebration and I was doing so much thinking. And, you know, at this point, we're almost, I think, 3 months out from Celebration. We're about 60 days out from 2022. And I've been thinking recently, especially about the pressure we're all under, the stress we're all under, the intensity of the world we're living in, the energy it takes to not just build this business, but to keep it going season after season after season of our own life seasons, of the business seasons, of the world's financial seasons. I am not a financial analyst or an expert, so don't take my word for anything, but I think we can collectively agree we're in a financial season. And so when I got back from Celebration, I just started writing. And I wrote pages and pages and pages of notes that I'm continuing to add to daily. And so some of the stuff that I wrote down and some of the stuff we're going to walk through, I'm probably going to read right from the page, if that's okay with you, because I want to make sure that we're all kind of following along and I don't want to miss anything. But I'm curious if any of you have had any of those like dark night of the soul moments where you start thinking like, what the heck am I doing? Why am I even getting on these calls? Why am I going to events? Why am I pushing up against the naysayers and the people who don't believe me? Am I ever going to really feel good at this? Am I crazy for believing something like this could work? The world is changing. It's changing so quickly. I just don't know if I can keep up with it. Have any of you, other than me, ever kind of been woken up in the middle of the night with thoughts like that? If you have, throw a 2 in the chat. So I know I'm not alone. Awesome. The world is lots of people. Okay, that's what I imagine. The world is constantly shifting. There are people who have opinions about what we should or shouldn't be doing to make money, what it looks like to be happy, what it means to live a good life. It's all changing. And so as I started taking these notes, I started to kind of take myself through this process that I've gone through over the last 10 plus years, because I've really been building this for about 10 years. And I think it might be valuable to bring you all along if you've ever had thoughts like that. So the problem, I think, that we can all collectively agree that we're experiencing in the world is we don't have enough money to live the life we want to live. And Lauren actually said this last week on our call. She said, I don't care what income bracket you're in, there's a good chance right now you're able to acknowledge that life costs a little bit more and you'd like a little bit more money. And this is not a you problem. This is a world conversation. It's a world problem. And at least in my experience, regardless of income bracket, like Lauren mentioned, everybody is having this conversation of, life is costing more. I don't necessarily feel like I'm making more, I'm getting more, or I'm getting more for my money. And I think we do need to take into account inflation is real. Again, I'm not a financial expert. I am not a financial analyst. And I imagine we've all noticed inflation is real, especially right now. And what I mean by that, and I imagine many of you have heard this before, is that it will cost you an average of $5,200 more this year in 2022 to live the exact same life you lived in 2021. And this is a couple months old in terms of a statistic. It might be higher now, to be completely honest. So that means it's going to cost you, on average, an extra $433 a month to live the exact same life you lived last year. And if you live in somewhere like California, New York City, certain areas, it's potentially significantly more. And again, I don't know about you, but I feel like life is costing more, and I don't necessarily feel like I'm getting more. Does anybody else feel like that? Life is costing more, and I don't necessarily feel like I'm getting more. And so there's more stress, there's more pressure to live this life that we're accustomed to, and that doesn't even take into account all of the ways you'd like to live, all of the things you'd like to do, all of the experiences you'd like to have that just don't feel accessible right now. And I hear so many people say, I'm not getting everything that I want. I'm not able to do everything I want to do because I feel limited by what I can afford. I feel like I'm never going to get ahead. The debt is piling up. I imagine a lot of people on this line might feel this way. And if you're being honest, you might barely be getting by. And everything oftentimes feels really far off in the future. Does anybody else ever feel like that? Yeah. So I've been thinking about kind of what's causing this financial frustration in so many people I know, in so many people, all walks of life, people in isogenics, people outside of isogenics, because this is not an isogenics problem. This is a world problem. Isogenics is an ecosystem within the world. And so if this is a world problem, a lot of people are a part of this conversation. So I started asking myself some of these questions specific to isogenics, and I'm going to ask them to you as well. For you, what is the underlying cause that erodes your trust in the opportunity that isogenics makes available to people like us? What is the underlying cause that erodes our trust in the opportunity that isogenics makes available to people like us? Why do we not follow through on the system? And you guys, I don't know if you know this, but like you have the system that's taken over the company. But why do we not follow through on the system? Or why do we sometimes I don't want to curse on your call, halfway our way through the process? Why do we really not go all in on what's available here? And after talking to many of you, many people on my team, many people within isogenics, I've come to the conclusion that the underlying cause is irrational fears. It's the fear of not succeeding. It's the fear of not feeling competent. It's the fear of failing. It's the fear of realizing, oh my goodness, maybe I'm really just not that good at this. And I don't know what your irrational fear is, but I would love for you to kind of think about it right now. And if you're willing to, put it in the chat and let others know, if for no other reason, then we can all see none of us are special. And we all have our version of an irrational fear. Rejection. I'm just burnt out, not being successful. Awesome. I really appreciate you guys sharing. So for me, my fears sometimes cause me to cut corners. It's like, I'll do enough. And I imagine people can relate to this. I can do enough, but I'm not always going to go all in. So maybe it looks like I'm enrolling people and I'm already imagining that, well, if I really take them on and I really pour all of my time into them, in the back of my mind, I'm already prepared that they might not follow through. And if they don't follow through and they don't do what they said they're committed to, I, in the end, end up feeling like, oh, I'm really not that good at this. Maybe I don't really know what I'm doing. And what I'm really doing when I kind of go through this process, I'm projecting my own fears and my own concerns onto them. And newsflash, it's not them. It's me. I actually had a mentor. I've had one for many years, and he instilled in me very early on in our coaching, Ciji, it is never them, it is always you. And that was actually a reminder that would always go off in my phone, regardless of isogenics. It is never them, it is always you. You want to talk about radical responsibility? That was a journey. But spoiler alert, it's not your people, it's not your prospects, it's not your customers, it's not your teammates, it's not the people who are quitting, it's not the people who you're comparing yourself to, it's you. It's your fears. And so for you, it might be not following the system. It might be not being intentional with social media. It might be lazily just throwing something up for the sake of it, just tagging people in things, thinking that they're just going to see it and it's enough. Maybe it's not reaching out. Maybe it's not prospecting. Maybe it's not showing up for your current team. Maybe it's not showing gratitude for the people who show up every single week. Don't forget, at the end of the day, we're all a volunteer army. And so my point is, whatever it looks like for you, we all have ways we're failing to show up and then getting lost in talking in our head about why we suck at this, which leaves us in this perpetual cycle of doing what's not working and then talking about what's not working. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty certain the fastest way to continue to get what's not working is to keep talking about what's not working and what doesn't feel good. In fact, I have a rule with people I text message. I mean, for the most part, it takes a moment before I let them in on the rules to texting me, but I don't want to talk about what's not working, what doesn't feel good. I want to be a part of conversations that are very solutions oriented. What's working? What feels good? What are you working on? What's exciting for you right now? Because I'm a believer that the more we're focused on the stuff that's working and the more we're looking for new ways for it to work, the more effective we tend to be in the action we're taking. And so the reality is, if we look at the financial landscape, because we're talking about people are wanting more money, if we look at the financial landscape for 99.9% of the population, those listening live, people who will listen to the recording, you likely don't have a structure outside of isogenics for making as much money as you want in your life. So, for example, if you have a job, and I imagine a lot of you have a job, which is amazing. I am a huge advocate for having a job. I think it's really important. And actually, we need more people who love what they do. So this is not one of those things where it's like you need to, absolutely not. It's amazing to have a job and to have that because it will take a lot of pressure off of your need to build and build quickly. But if you have a job, you are a component in someone else's system, and your income is capped because in order for someone else to make money, they need you to do your job, and that's it. So you're leveraged in someone else's system. And it's the system and it's the structure that are key. If you have no system and you have no structure, then the possibility of making money is up in the air. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. It's kind of like a coin toss. And after working my tail off in this company for over 12 years, hustling in the isogenic structure, making, quite honestly, more money than I could have ever imagined for myself, and talking to thousands and thousands of people who are hoping to make more money as well, I have seen that most people try to go out into the world without a system and without structure in an attempt to figure it out on their own. And unfortunately, most people fail. So I want to dive in a little bit to what I mean by this. Is this making sense so far for you guys, or are you following along? Can you put a 3 in the chat if you're like, yes, I'm into this, or you can put a 4 if you're like, no, I'm not, and we can go in a different direction. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure. Okay, so let's talk about what I mean. So for example, some people, instead of following, again, I don't have to tell this team, proven isogenic system, plugging into the proven isogenics opportunity, you can go out into the world and you can become an entrepreneur. And what we know for sure is most entrepreneurs will fail. And why will they fail? Lack of a system. So I did some research when I was setting this call up. So again, some of the statistics might be off a little bit, but I've seen that 21.7% of small businesses fail in the first year, and over 50% will fail in the first 5. Only a third will make it to 10. And one of the issues is lack of cash flow, the ability to create enough cash flow to pay off business debts for loans, payroll, insurance, all of the things. If you have a brick and mortar business, throw a 4 in the chat. There oftentimes is massive overhead, and massive startup costs. And there is no real mentorship and there's no real guidance when you start a business like that. When it comes to things like sales, when it comes to things like marketing, when it comes to customer acquisition, when it comes to how to navigate the financial and economic seasons that you will inevitably experience regardless of what industry you're in. And on top of all that, it's incredibly lonely because nobody will care about your small business nearly as much as you do. And another thing you could do, instead of following and really plugging into the proven isogenic system, the proven isogenics opportunity, and I can't stress proven enough because this team knows better than anybody how proven it really is. But you can go out to make more money and do something like join the gig economy. You can work for Uber or Lyft. And what I found, at least in my own conversations with people, is you think you have freedom, but you're responsible for all of the costs of the service when it comes to maintenance and gas prices and all of the things that go along with it. And there's this increasingly lowering pay and the increasing rising costs just to stay in the game. But the biggest trap, in my opinion, for a lot of these companies, for a lot of the people that are playing in this gig economy place, is very simply, they don't scale. You only make money based off of time spent. There is no residual income. There's no way to really scale up. And then there are some people who go out into the world and they need more money and they're like, no, I'll just get a second job. And again, it's an option and it's not a bad thing. But I think we all know there's no freedom. There's no flexibility. You're on someone else's schedule. You're following someone else's rules. You're at the beck and call of a boss that you likely don't want, you potentially might not even like. And again, there's no way to scale. You're trading time for money. There's no residual. It's all of the things we know. And then I hear all the time from people, well, Ciji, real estate investing is the gold standard of passive income. And I say this with the caveat that I am not a real estate developer or someone that has done a ton of kind of the back end. But I can say, as someone who has built a significant portfolio when it comes to real estate investing, hearing constantly from people, it's the gold standard, it's the gold standard. For some it is, But the truth of the matter is, and I know I've shared this before, so some of you may have heard it. And again, this is my experience. So if you're better than me, by all means. In my experience, in order for me to make $500 a month passively in my equity investments, to make $500 a month passively, it requires of me a 6-figure investment. So for every $100,000 I invest, and again, I love it and I'm grateful for it and I'm stoked on it and has been really fun place for me to play. But for every $100,000 I put in, I make approximately $500 a month in a distribution. And while I love it and I'm grateful for it, the truth is most people don't have access to $100,000 laying around. And I work with a group of people who are mastery level. If you're going to go this on your own and really take this on your own, you're essentially starting an entrepreneurial journey. So you have all the pitfalls that I already mentioned, plus the immense amount that you're putting in it. And just curiously, if you've earned $500 a month in Isogenics, can you throw a 5 in the chat? And I like the amount of people who rank advanced last week. I just imagine the amount of 5s I'm about to see. It's pretty incredible. Cool. And you were able to do that for the cost of the nutrition, the functional nutrition that you're able to consume to optimize your physiology. That's kind of amazing. And that is never lost on me. So to circle back to where we're going, if you were to find a real solution to this money issue we're talking about, and I have to imagine you know where I'm going. If you were to find a real solution to this inflation conversation that so many people are talking about, that so many people are experiencing, one that had a higher probability of success, then it would have to have a couple characteristics. It would have to have a couple qualities, because if it doesn't, in my opinion, it would just be one of the tactics I already mentioned. So if it's going to work for you, it would have to have a proven track record of success. It would have to have training for marketing, for selling, for customer acquisition. It would have to have low startup costs, low overhead, a community of people who are cheering you on, who are supporting you, who are uplifting you, who are there when you fall, who want to raise you up when you're struggling, who want to celebrate you when you're on the top of the mountain. If it's going to work for you, it must include mentorship, and mentorship from people who have been there, done it, and know how to teach it. Access to the best of the best, personal growth, business education, customer service, research and development, back-end systems built for you, international opportunities. And I imagine you all know exactly where I'm going with this. I just described to you, obviously, or maybe not obviously if you're brand new, but I just described to you the opportunity you're all taking part in already. The opportunity with Isogenics, 20-year track record of success, proven system for marketing and selling consistent, low overhead, low startup costs. Look at this community, customer service, killer, like all the stuff, research and development, all of it, oftentimes done for you. So I'm literally, what I'm doing right now, what I want you to understand, because I know it sounds like a little opportunity call-ish, I'm literally taking you through my process for getting recommitted to this opportunity that we have. Because I just want to be completely transparent with you. I have to get recommitted over and over and over again. I've been building this business for 12 years. That's 12 years of actively recommitting myself. It's 12 years of actively taking radical responsibility for my commitment. And so when I'm kind of going through this process with myself, I like to think about the results someone can expect when they start at Isogenics. I like to get reconnected to, why am I even doing this in the first place? And so I imagine many of you have experienced, if not all of this, then some of kind of what I'm going to go through with you. So raise your hand or put, I don't know what number we're on, let's say a 6. Raise your hand or put a 6 in the chat if you feel healthier today than you felt when you started consuming this nutrition. I know this is the fun part. Lots of 6s. Okay, cool. raise your hand or put a 7 in the chat if you feel like a more effective human being in navigating the world because of this community, of these trainings, of the mentorship you have, of this bubble you're constantly immersed in. Whether it's for a day or a decade. Awesome. Raise your hand or put an 8 in the chat if you've been able to add some level of income into your household through this vehicle. Awesome, lots of 8s. And here's the thing. I imagine I'm preaching to the choir, and a lot of you know this. This business isn't necessarily overnight success. I think we do all know that. And the cost of having an Isogenics business is approximately $175 a month. So for $175 a month, you're able to consume highly functional nutrition as your overhead. And for $175 a month, at a baseline, you'll find yourself healthier. And you have the ability, which many of you realize because you're doing it, to have a business. And sometimes we take for granted how low that overhead is, that we can justify not doing the things that we know are important, not going up against the irrational fears that we just talked about, because the overhead is so low. There's no loss here. How many of you have experienced it before? You maybe haven't done the things that are required of you because the overhead is so low, it's easy to justify not taking the action, letting yourself off the hook, because you cannot lose in this equation. This is not a $100,000 investment. So if you've earned more than $175, put a 9 in the chat. And if you've helped someone earn more than $175, we're out of numbers, put a C in the chat. Because our overhead is so nominal, and I've heard Zach Slovin say this before, who I think just trained this team relatively recently, and I'm sure many of you have heard him say it as well. Because our products help people get a visual and emotional result, a result that's not just experienced in the person consuming the product, but a result that's also witnessed within the network of the person consuming the product. Because of that incredible dynamic, we are able to watch people turn a profit in this business, sometimes in the first month. And when I get connected to that idea, my irrational fears are reduced. My inspiration returns, my motivation returns. What about you? Do you feel maybe a little bit more excited when you're able to put it into that context? How many of us have gotten a compliment about our energy, our vitality, our complexion, our physical transformation, the way we show up in the world since we started consuming this nutrition? Because when you have a consumable product that gets people a visual and emotional result, that's what lends itself to residual income. Because I don't know about you, although I do kind of know about you, but when I get a result from something, when I'm excited about something, I am going to tell people. It is a physiological impossibility for me to not share the things I'm up to. 99.9% have no affiliate compensation, anything. It's just what I do. But in Isogenics, when someone orders the product that helped you look and feel amazing, when it helps them, you continue to get paid over and over and over again on it. And if you're like me and you want to tell others, now your business has legs, literally and figuratively, a left leg and a right leg. And that is really what inspires me. The opportunity to help people do what it requires of me, at least in real estate, a really significant investment, but even more. And I know there's fear out there for people. I know there are people who feel like, well, Ciji, this is all well and good, but I just don't know enough people. And I get that because when I first started, I said that exact same thing. I made a list of 17 people. I reached out to all 17 people. I called Alexis Romano back and I was like, okay, I reached out to my 17 people. So I guess I'm done now. Like that, wherever we are, we are. And she's like, yeah, that's not how this works. Right. But I can tell you, after being in this business for over 12 years, the people I'm enrolling today are people I did not know 12 years ago. And that's excellent news for me. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I was significantly less likable 12 years ago. I had to grow into a palatable human being. In fact, before Isagenix, and if you've been to UAA, I was miserable, broken, bartender on the Jersey Shore. My own family called me cold, right? I could go on and on. It took people a little while to start to kind of like me and warm up to me. So it's really cool to be 12 years in and to get to meet people who only know me as who I am today after having invested significantly in my own personal growth and development just in being in this company for 12 years. Forget about outside training. There's so much just from this company that helps so many of us grow into people that we maybe never once thought were possible. And there are so many ways to build your network. There are so many ways to kind of do the things you're already doing and build your network. So mom groups, there's happy hour, there's school functions. I have what I believe is the cutest dog on the planet. We go to the dog park. It's one of the best spots for me to meet and connect with people. My brother is brilliant at happy hour prospecting. He builds his team at happy hour because that's what's fun to him. And then of course, social media, which gives us access to endless amounts of people, including all of the countries that Isagenix is open in. And one of the things I've heard a lot of, especially lately from people, is, but social media marketing looks different now. If you've been around for a minute, you've probably at least thought that, if not said it. And it's fair. It has absolutely evolved. It is different than what it was in 2012 when there wasn't a soul in my network also building a network marketing business. I was the first one in my network. And so it was messy for sure. There were no trainings on it, but it looked a little bit different. It has evolved. And it doesn't change the fact that Instagram alone has 1.4 billion, with a B, billion users. And so while sometimes we feel like you have to be an influencer to make a dent, that's not at all true. The truth is, you don't need 1.4 billion people to say yes to this opportunity. You don't even need a fraction of that. In fact, if I were to ask Lauren and Jessica, hey, how many people did you enroll to your first million? I don't know their numbers, but I know I was a higher enroller. So mine was about I say a higher enroller, they were probably higher. I want to say mine was about 500 people to my first million. 500 people to my first million. We have about 1.4 billion on Instagram alone. And so I know that people also have in the back of their minds, like, well, I just don't know if I have the personality for this. I just don't know if I'm built for this. And again, I understand it because I said the same thing. I know there are people who feel like, well, I'm not a salesperson. I just want to mind my own business. That's what I said at my very first Isagenix event when people were standing on chairs, hugging and dancing. I looked at Tara and Alexis Romano and I said, this is nice. I don't want to talk to people. Obviously, I warmed up to the idea. But I understand it all because it was me. And if I'm being honest, it still is me in a lot of ways. Like, I still would love to never leave my house. I am not outgoing. My only sales training when I started this business was upselling liquor to drunk customers on the Jersey Shore. I still want to be a hermit 100% of the time if I can, especially when it's summertime in Austin, because I just spent my first summer in Texas and it like, I don't even have words for what it felt like. But something I wholeheartedly believe when it comes to what we're doing in Isagenix is it's not rocket science. It's not becoming a professional baseball player where you need God-given talent, where it's required. Everything we do in Isagenix, everything we do is a skill that can be learned. It's learning how to ask effective questions. It's learning how to present. It's learning how to create content. It's learning how to write. I'm currently taking an NLP course because I want to become a more effective speaker and communicator. Everything we do in this business is a skill that can be learned. And again, that's something that excites me as someone who had minimal kind of talents that were about to make me like a pop star or anything where I really thought I was going to have a lot of leverage and opportunity in my life, network marketing showed up and provided everything I could ever want to a very average student who had a small network, who was just willing to go to work on the things that were necessary to really build something here. And so to kind of wrap this up, and then if Lauren wants to do more, we certainly can. Today, I'm inviting all of you to make a new commitment to your business. I invite you to take new actions. I invite you to really kind of walk through your own irrational fears and get clear on what they are. I invite you to get connected again to why you said yes to this in the first place, whether it was a day ago or 10 years ago, like me. And if it was me, this is what I would do. You don't have to do any of it, but this is what I would do. One, if you don't already, I imagine I'm preaching to the choir here. I would put your team calls in your calendar, make them an absolute non-negotiable. I can't say it enough. The powerhouses that you have on this team, the training that you have access to is a real privilege. You are so fortunate to have leaders who show up for you every single week and bring on content and training and do the work that they do behind the scenes to become the women that they are, and the men. But the women and the men that they are today that you watch stand on stages and you just think, well, Jessica was born for this. Lauren was born for this. They weren't, I mean, I don't know them that long, but they were not. They had to go to work on themselves to become the leaders that we all love and appreciate. So I would make sure these calls are non-negotiable. Our environment is so much stronger than our willpower. And I'm someone with, I like to believe I have really strong willpower. And no matter how great your intentions are, if your environment is not set up for success, when life happens, and I promise you it will, if you don't have the conditions in place to help you stay focused, to help you stay armored up, to help you stay in the game, you're setting yourself up for failure. It's these calls, it's this community. People do not quit building this business because all of a sudden they stopped wanting what they once claimed to want. They quit because life happens and the noise in the outside world gets so loud that it becomes easier to get unplugged, and they start to lose sight of what they claimed they wanted in the first place, of the possibility that exists here. So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is make a brand new list. Start with your top 20 people that you want to reach out to and talk to about Isagenix. Not that you want to wish them a happy birthday. You can, it's lovely, but that you want to have a conversation about Isagenix with. And I would reach out to those people and I would do it soon. A lot of the time we're like, I'm building a relationship and I'm building a relationship. And 10 years later, they're in, another company, or this has happened to all of us. They're in Isagenix and they're getting welcomed into your team group, and it's not by you because someone else was willing to pull the trigger and ask the question. So I would make the list of the 20 people that you really want to talk to about Isagenix. And then the third thing I would do is I would put up, if you haven't done this recently, put up a transparent post on social media. This is my opinion. All of this, for the record, is my opinion. I feel like that I sometimes speak as though things are fact. All my opinion. I would put up a transparent post on social media without the hype, without telling people you're taking over the world, without the like, this is it mentality, because that gets really stale and people probably see right through it, especially if you've done that 914 times before. But I would just be really honest and really transparent about why you're excited about Isagenix in this season. Because like I said, our seasons change. Over 12 years, the amount of life seasons I've gone through are so different. If you started Isagenix and you were maybe single with no kids, and now you're married with a full-time job and 3 children, I imagine what excites you about Isagenix now might look different than what it once did. The same goes for the products. And I said it earlier, the products, what my daily routine with this nutrition looks like is very different than what it looked like 12 years ago. The evolution is normal. And so start to talk to people from where you are now and what excites you now. Stop trying to live into potentially an older version of yourself that doesn't necessarily make sense anymore. And then the last thing I would do is I would open up an email and I would reach out to your upline, your sideline, your cross, whomever. And I would take some time to communicate what you're committed to in your business now. And I would let someone know that's willing to hold you accountable, because accountability is a structure that is so important. I had a mentor say to me, Ciji, what you have structure for is what exists. And so if I look at your life, I know exactly what you're committed to because the structure for it exists. And so anything that you're wanting that doesn't currently exist, the first place we're going to focus is putting the structure in place. And one of the most profound structures that I believe is really having true accountability. I mentioned this before, and then I swear I'll be done. I'm taking an NLP course right now, and part of it is having really radical accountability in the sense that I have 10 commitments that I have to follow through on every day. I have a call I have to get on with my team every single day. And if we don't show up, we lose points. And I essentially screw the other team members over. So I am being asked to play at an even higher level of accountability in my own life than I have in a really long time. And it's been a great reminder of how easily we tend to let ourselves off the hook. We live in a world where it's easy to give our word, say we're going to do something and not actually do it, because there's no consequences. So start to find ways to put accountability in your life, to put structure in your life. So when you say what you're committed to, you have someone that says, hey, so-and-so, I know you said you were committed to X, Y, and Z, but I haven't seen you on the call on Mondays. So is that still what you're committed to, or were you joking? And so you guys, actually, that is all I have for you tonight. I don't know if there's anything I didn't touch on that Lauren wanted me to, but it was a privilege and a pleasure to hang out with you all tonight. And I mean, I can't stress enough how much I love the leadership on this team and just what incredible humans you all are.
Well, thank you. And that was amazing. And hopefully you've been able to read the chat while you're just dropping insane genius. And I know I speak on both Jess and I don't know if she wants to come off and say anything, how grateful we are to have your leadership, your wisdom, just pure genius and authenticity. And you guys, when I told you earlier, like she's so real. But over those 12 years and from coaching and from NLP, from going to every event, from studying her own health, just really, really, really walks the talk, but you make this so relatable. And I think, watching people's faces, just saying, hey, like, okay, I'm spending an extra $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 a year. I didn't get a raise. I'm feeling that. And it not only, I think, incentivizes people to work this business for themselves, but all of the blues, I know for sure on this call, but I think everybody, it drives you to want to help other people, because if you're in a place fortunate enough to not be feeling that, other people are, and we just see how powerful this is and all the other ways that you can do it. So I am so thankful for all of this. I would just say, if you had any closing words, anything, finishing the year strong, getting to NYKO. I mean, I love those 4 action items. I actually just messaged Jess because she's been my accountability for 9 years, and we work really well together about, hey, I've got my 20, and by the way, let me know when this is done. Like I messaged her just privately right now because this is how we are. But if there's anything, and I love that, you guys, put a 11 in the chat. That's my number. Put an 11 in the chat if you're committed to, like getting on the team call, finding those 20 people, everything that Ciji had just said, it's absolutely amazing, doing that transparent post and not the hype, not the rah. And I love what she said. It's not a transparent post about the before and after, right? It's the transparent post about like why you're excited, like what fires you up. I mean, it's so amazing. But if there was anything you just wanted to say about what to do in this, Q4 NYKO, I would just love for them to hear something different from the two of us.
Yeah, I guess what I would say is it's really important to take responsibility for setting up your own conditions to thrive. So like, for example, I moved into a place that was fully furnished. And so the owner was like, hey, there are plants. Do you want to keep them? And I was like, I'll keep them, but I've never kept a plant alive. So like, if you want them to survive, you should take them. She said, no, it's fine. Cool. So there's like, I don't know, 10 plants all over the apartment, right? And I realized very quickly that they were all dying. And I was like, what is happening? Well, this plant needs more water. This plant needs less water. This plant needs more sunlight. This plant needs less sunlight. And kind of what it kind of brings me to is my life looks so different than Lauren's. It looks so different than Jessica's. My conditions to thrive are completely different. And so there's a level of responsibility that we all get to take in our own life to figure out, hey, what's required of me to thrive in this business? What is the structure that has to be in place? You heard Lauren say, I already texted Jessica, about our accountability. They have an accountability, obviously, that really works incredibly well for them. what does it look like for you? Because it might look different, but I think we tend to, as a society, kind of hang our crutch on, well, I can't do exactly what Lauren and Jessica are doing. So it's the structure that's broken. It's not me. When the truth is, yeah, that structure might not be ideal for you to thrive, but it's nobody's responsibility except for your own to figure out how you can thrive in this current environment, in this current world environment, in this current business environment, in your current life environment. If you have 5 kids, I am not the person to let you know how to set up your conditions. It would just be inappropriate. And it's also not my job. It's my responsibility to figure out my conditions that help me thrive. And so I invite you, if you feel like, oh, okay, like one of the things I realized is I have no structure and like the conditions for my life are not optimal from like a physiological standpoint, from an environment standpoint, from the people I'm hanging out with. It's a really good time to get your conditions in order so that as we close out 2022 and we go into 2023, you're really in a position to grow. And it's hard to grow in depleted soil. So that's probably where I would end it.
Woo, I love that last line. Hard to grow in depleted soil. Ciji, thank you so much. You guys, she missed out on some of her team call. Todd did it so she could be here with us tonight. So thank you, thank you. Will you guys just put one word in the chat, how you're feeling right now hearing from Ciji? Just one word that you want to say to her, how you're feeling, what you're going to do tonight, what you're going to do in Q4, how you're going to recommit. Let her just absorb everything that you guys are feeling right now and everything she gave us. Ciji, thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. We've got still an amazing, amazing lineup of people through the rest of the year. So thank you for plugging in. Thank you for, showing up. Thank you guys for being committed. We appreciate you so much. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Bye.